Deleted session, February 24th, 1972. The other night you were talking to a portion of the personality who called itself the creator. It was actually a composite of the creative self and the conscientious self. I am the creative self. You see me in the poetry, the psychic developments, and the summary, but I have been forced to follow certain lines, as you suspected. Despite my nature, far more than Rupert suspects from the beginning, his nature creative drives were also used to their ends, both religious, social, and as a way of gaining approval. He always needed approval, desperately. I was often forced to structure my work along lines that would bring approval. He feared the psychic developments, though they were one of my most creative endeavors, because he was afraid they would bring scorn instead. Sometimes his intellect has worked with me, sometimes not. I am far more resilient, pliable, flexible, and daring than other elements of his personality, which are fear-ridden. Some of his attitudes have to do with his parents, in that he fears he could become like his father, undisciplined and slack, loose and immoral. His mother's scorn told him this was a part of a bad blood heritage, an inevitable part of his condition. Rupert felt that his mother only liked him because of his writing. In the early novels, his repressed feelings could be expressed. They were creative, but also safety valves. I made art out of them. I need freedom and agility of thought, where he tends to repress me unless I conform to definite ideas of good and wrong. I found the conscientious self then an uneasy partner and a growing hindrance. The repression in one way I used in the novels, but when the habit becomes too ingrained, I found it difficult to retain, to transform into art. Some of my material comes from Rupert's repressions, but when the habit allows for too strong a charge, constantly rebuilt, this is a hindrance. I often help, and have, by recharging him, as I did in all the creative developments to date. But then he must think, is this good or is this bad? Am I being too free? I can handle the early repressions. The habit of repression dropped its hold to a great degree when he met you. The situation of your illness brought it back, and from there it gained hold again. You know that panic is behind such repression, and a misguided idea of self-protection. Inhibiting thoughts inevitably inhibited body motion. For his own benefit and mine, 2 or 3 times a week he should sit down and write out his feelings, as he began to do last summer. All kinds of repressions will come to the surface. You must understand that for nearly 20 years, he lived in an environment in which expression of dissent brought instant retaliation of the most frightening kind. Outright punishment, hair-pulling, or cursing. Verbal humiliation was easiest to bear. But his mother would immediately show all kinds of extremely serious symptoms for which Rupert would be ultimately blamed. His mother would pretend suicide just to punish him. He felt therefore that he caused your illness, that in a way you were punishing him for the frivolousness. That made him suggest you leave a conventional background and your parents, and go with his father in Florida. When you became sick, he thought, aha, mother was right. I do destroy everyone I touch, and now I have made my husband sick. There is a great division of energy, as there is in all creators, but in his case between the need for spontaneity and discipline, safety and freedom. And these are clearly seen in the body's condition right now. Quite unwittingly, because of your own nature, you tilted the balance for a while. He picked up your ideas of discipline in the beginning, then lodged upon them in his own way. He felt you did not trust his judgment, remembering what he thought of as key points in your life. When his judgment seemed wrong, or when it was criticized. These seemingly small episodes were nevertheless important, because in the beginning you emphasized discipline. He felt you did not think him capable of exerting it on his own. That while you were attracted to his spontaneity, you feared it and his energy. He felt that you believed that given a free hand, his habits would be too exuberant. He would have, or would keep, odd hours, no schedule, be lazy. He felt for some time that you were intrigued by the spontaneous parts of his personality, as long as they could be controlled, kept proper and in their place. This had to do with the love-making also. He tried then, because of his loyalty to you, to temper the percentages, to be more one way than the other. You had this effect because he did idealize you to such a degree. It was not a fault of yours. When you became ill, then the repressive state reasserted itself. You follow me there? Because of the mother's situation, it was not safe to speak of illness at all. He could not bear to be responsible for your condition. After that, he feared deeply that all adverse comment of his or negative remarks would make you worse. Your illness frightened him more than anything else since his life with his mother, because he could not allow you of all people to be ill because of him, as explained. From that point on, he kept any negative thoughts or criticisms to himself, and during that time he feared that you almost disliked him completely. The habits of repression took great root. Rather than hurt you, he would put himself into harness. Once begun, these feelings attracted to then others from the past, so that I was appalled and finally had great difficulty. He felt his success put you in a poor light in your mother's eyes, and the eyes of society. An impoverished artist as a husband, he could take with great pride. Once the part-time job continued and kept continuing, however, once you had a job steadily, then he felt that others compared you, not with other artists, but with other ordinary men who had jobs. And there, under those conditions, you made poor showing. He felt these feelings extremely disloyal. He felt your mother was silently accusing him of putting you in a poor light whenever he succeeded. He wanted you to state your position and say, "I am an artist," to her and to the world. But he deeply feared that you considered that attitude irresponsible, frivolous, not practical, and worse, that you felt it negated the sacrifice you made by keeping the job for so long. Rob noted, "Not so." Seth said, for all of these reasons, the habits of repression continued, for any critical comment could bring up the whole barrage. The slightest remark that you made that he did not agree with was the symbol for these inner deeper feelings. He dared not criticize you for anything, or even disagree in normal conversation. The charge was so great. You did not communicate yourself too well. Because of his abilities, he picked up your feelings all too clearly. But because of his fears, he picked up your negative feelings. He was afraid you were not an artist after all. He knew you were not a Sunday painter, but he felt you were greatly repressed in your work, and that any breakthrough could only come when you focused upon it. Your work, regardless of other consequences. He interpreted what you said at times to mean, "You are ungrateful for my sacrifice." But he did not think the sacrifice in those terms were necessary after the first years, and that such sacrifice could destroy your ability, your fine purpose. He therefore did not discuss any issues with you concerning his own discouragements or fears as they happened. He felt guilty enough because you were working. He did not want to lay extra burdens on you, but he came to resent everything that was provided by a job. Though you have left the job, the habit of repression is still strong. I know this is a burden on you, but it is important that both of you understand the repression. In some ways, he has made poor judgments, for example, in dealing with editors. Part of this was caused by this need for approval. He also interpreted your comments, however, as indications that, left alone, he would not behave with competence, that he was not able to cope, that he would not be able to learn through experience how to deal with editors, for example. For many years, at least 7, he has been deeply concerned about your work, a repressive element in it, and the psychic freedom he left you needed to release it. Because of the age difference, he became very worried. Your best energies were going into your work, he felt, as a job, not into painting, and the very focus divided you. He felt it disloyal to recognize the repressive element in your work, and tried to pretend he did not see it. One of the best influences on him are the few pages in a book by a psychologist about the creative personality. He knows what they are. They release him to a strong degree, but in the past, there has been a bearing down afterward, a renewal of repressions, if he became frightened, if the spontaneity has worked. With your help, he can avoid the second reaction. You know what I mean. Rob said, "Yes, but I'll have to know when it's happening," meaning that Jane will have to tell me. They said, "The passages allow him to give me freedom, and also release the physical mechanism to some notable degree. If he does not repress any fears following the release, then improvements will continue. He did not realize this, so the information above will be of great help. I am an ally because I can help express those repressions. I have the energy to do it creatively if I am not hampered. Read this together with the other statement. You are on the right track. Once repression is really faced as a problem, it can be overcome, because all portions of Rupert's personality now realize the danger involved, and know that the pattern must be broken. There may well be emotional charges expressed. Do not be afraid of them. They will clear the air. Part of that was because Rupert was sensitive to your own negative feelings or fears, and picked this up. Basically, he trusted both you and your work, as I have. The physical condition was also meant as a signal, saying, "Look what is happening," the body trying to speak out, where he would not. It served that purpose, and as mentioned elsewhere, it served as a symbolic statement as he put himself behind you. You used to say in a critical manner that he would not wait for you to open doors, and run ahead of you on the street. He took this to be a statement that he was running ahead of you and to slow up. The very fact that all of this now comes into the open is most advantageous, though it has been mentioned before. The peculiar tie-ups have not been described this well or this adequately. Please read this carefully. You need not fear that you must watch every word, and so forth, as long as communication both ways is maintained. Your own habit of repression in the past helped reinforce Rupert's, so greater communication helps you both. Nothing you can say vocally can be as severe as Rupert sometimes imagines your reaction to him. So do not feel that you must remain silent on any issues. That only compounds the issue.